Alright guys, I just got done watching the Green Bay Packers' first preseason game of the 2024 season versus the Cleveland Browns. So in today's video, I'm going to go over all of my key takeaways from this first preseason game. And it was a very interesting one. A lot of the times you just kind of go through preseason games and you can only take a couple things out of it, but man, there's a lot to go over from this preseason game, primarily with this defense and all the new ball players that they have on this defense from the draft and also free agency, right? Man, this defense was flying around last night. It was very, very fun to watch. The Packers' new scheme, all the new players. It was really fun to watch, and it was actually a very exciting preseason game. So I have all my notes down below me from both the offense, the defense, and a little bit from the special teams, which was near perfect, which is great to hear. So let's dive into it. If you happen to be a new viewer and want to stay in the loop with everything Green Bay Packers this season, this channel is the place to find it. From training camp highlights and recaps to preseason game recaps, going over PFF grades, live streams during games, you'll find it all here on this channel. I'd highly suggest going down and clicking subscribe. All right, so let's dive right into this thing. And I first wanted to go over the inactive lists, or the players that didn't play in this preseason game, whether it was for rest reasons or injury reasons. Now, Jaire Alexander didn't play in this game. There wasn't any injury there, just simply gave him the night off, which is fine. You know, we don't really need to see Jaire in a preseason game. Although I do like to see the starters get some action, so maybe he will next week. Jordan Morgan didn't play. Hopefully we can see the first round rookie for the first time in live action next week. Carrington Valentine was out, obviously, with that hamstring injury. Zach Tom held out, probably precautionary. You know, they just started to ease him back into practice, so doesn't make sense there. Both rookie linebackers, Edgerrin Cooper and Tyron Hopper, didn't play in this game. I thought we'd see Hopper, maybe. It looked like when, pregame he was warming up and he might go in. That wasn't the case. Hopefully we can get these guys some snaps here in the second game. But other than those two, I was actually very impressed with the other linebackers on the roster. So I think just getting these guys on the field as well to see what they have, it'll just add so much to that room as well. Tyler Davis and Tucker Kraft didn't play, so it was a lot of Joel Wilson last night. And I'm a little bit shocked that Tyler Davis didn't play. I know he's recovering from the ACL, but he's been practicing in full for a while now. Maybe they're just, again, being a little precautious here, and we'll see him in either the second or third preseason game. He's been impressive all of training camp, so I did want to see him out there. All right, so we're going to start on offense, and obviously we got to talk about the first drive, guys. The first drive with the starting offense, I mean, you couldn't ask for more, right? You get a carry with Josh Jacobs. I mean, he had two touches. He had the one carry up the middle. I think it went for 8 yards. It looked good behind starting offensive line, which was kind of as we expected it to be, of Rasheed Walker, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Sean Ryan, and Andre Dillard at right tackle. Sean Ryan got a lot of reps last night, obviously with Jordan Morgan being out, and he's a great run blocker. He just needs to be more consistent in the pass blocking game. But Josh Jacobs, first carry, 8 yards, kind of similar to what they did last year with Aaron Jones, kind of give him one carry, and that's about it. Yes, you got to catch the next play where the Cleveland Browns defender made an excellent tackle. But of course, that led to the third down play where our main man, Dontavian Wicks, torched the Cleveland Browns defender for a 65-yard touchdown. Guys, this wide receiver room is stacked, and if you're a frequent viewer of my channel, you know my pick for wide receiver number one is Dontavian Wicks. Like, I believe this guy can be a very, very good wide receiver number one in the NFL, and I think it can happen on the Green Bay Packers. I'm not trying to overreact. It's one preseason snap. It's one preseason play, and it was against a dime safety on the Cleveland Browns roster. I believe it was Ronnie Hickman. I think he was a Ohio State safety from last season, last draft. Nonetheless, he tried to get hands on Wicks early. Didn't go well. We know how great Tay Wicks is at releasing off the line of scrimmage, and he simply beat him outside on the slot fade concept, turned on the burners, and it was a beautiful pass by Jordan Love over the top, right in stride for Tay Wicks to catch it and run right into the end zone. Man, I don't know if there's another group of 4 to 5 wide receivers in the NFL that can be as dangerous as the Green Bay Packers. Like, what is stopping this offense if they go 4 or 5 wide, right? Do other defenses have enough defensive backs to stop these wide receivers? Clearly, the Cleveland Browns had to come down to putting a dime safety against Tay Wicks in the slot, which is just a recipe for disaster, and clearly that showed. It was a great first drive, and that's all we needed to see. You know, Jordan Love kind of had an injury scare on Thursday. He's fine, obviously. That's all we needed to see. You know, hand off to Josh Jacobs, and a deep touchdown pass, and then they can ride the bench the rest of the night, which they did. It was a perfect showing from the first team offense. You couldn't ask for more. Jordan Love finished 2 for 2, 63 yards, a touchdown, and a perfect passer rating. Now, as for some other notes on the offense, when you take a look at the stats, two guys really stand out from this preseason game on the offense. First, Emmanuel Wilson at running back had 13 carries, 67 yards, a 5.2 average, and a touchdown. Man, this guy runs hard and is definitely making his case to make this roster, and it might have to come down to the Packers keeping 4 running backs. And I know a lot of people are probably already writing a comment, keep Emmanuel Wilson over A.J. Dillon, and I understand the A.J. Dillon hate. I mean, there was that one drive where it was 3 straight runs up the middle, and all he needed was a yard, and he couldn't get it, including one on 4th down. But guys, the blocking wasn't great, and I'm not sitting here trying to remove any blame off A.J. Dillon. He should definitely run harder and gain those yards. But when you watch the plays that are not positive from A.J. Dillon last night, I mean, he can't really do much. There's nowhere to go. Offensive linemen aren't sealing blocks correctly on those plays, but you would like to see him run harder for the size that he is at running back. And I know a lot of people were upset seeing it last night. Like, hey, he's one of the worst short down yardage running backs, yet he's one of the biggest running backs in the NFL. So I understand the frustration there, but the blocking, again, wasn't great. And that was kind of a theme last year, right? When our run offense wasn't doing well, a lot of the time it's because the offensive line wasn't blocking well. But then on the flip side, you watch Emmanuel Wilson, and this guy's just running hard every single play, where right when he gets contacted, he's still driving his legs, kind of diving forward, contorting his body to gain extra yards, reaching out the ball every time. You see the effort, and you want to see that same effort from A.J. Dillon. Emmanuel Wilson, man, every time he's on the field in the preseason, he simply just makes plays. And the second player on offense that really stood out, and you guys already know this if you watch the game, it's Grant DuBose. I mean, wow, what a performance by Grant DuBose in this preseason game. Just building on a great training camp. A lot of times during training camp, you're in practices and guys are flashing and you're going, let's see if they can replicate that in a preseason game. And Grant DuBose did not disappoint. 5 catches, 66 yards. I mean, he had multiple catches on crucial downs, including a 4th down, another 3rd down. Sean Clifford was finding Grant DuBose a ton, and it was definitely his favorite target of the night. The guy made some very impressive catches, had this one really impressive sideline catch where he barely got both of his feet down. Some toe drag on the sideline. He looked great, and he's making a case for this roster. And honestly, guys, I think the Packers may have to end up keeping 7 wide receivers. Was not a great night for Bo Melton, talking about receivers. Had a lot of drops last night. It's not something I'm generally worrying about. I mean, it just seemed like an off night for Bo Melton. I don't think he has a drop issue. He wasn't playing well last night, but to me, he's a lock to make the roster. He's the backup slot guy. Every time Jaden Reed has been out of practice, Bo Melton has slid right in at starting slot wide receiver to do the jet motions, the jet touch passes that Jaden Reed does. So the Packers clearly like him as that guy if Jaden Reed isn't available. Not only that, he can be utilized as a wide receiver in this offense. And it was just a bad preseason game by Bo Melton. I'm sure, next preseason game, he'll be the leading receiver or something of that sort. So I'm not saying the Packers need to keep Grant DuBose over Bo Melton by any means. I'm more so saying they might need to keep 7 wide receivers, and that's including Malik Heath and Grant DuBose. If they keep 6, I'm very interested how the rest of this training camp and preseason is going to go. I mean, Malik Heath versus Grant DuBose is something I've been talking about for the past 2 weeks, and it's intriguing, guys, because Malik Heath offers a lot on special teams, a lot in the run blocking game, but then you see the raw talent of Grant DuBose as a true wide receiver, an outside guy that can win consistently on the outside, and you think, hey, another team's going to claim this guy. And I know we go through every offseason and we're like, oh, we overvalue our guys. Like, another team's going to claim them, and it never ends up happening. But, if Grant DuBose continues this up and puts together another performance like this in the preseason, a team will definitely claim him. So it's going to come down to either the Packers keeping 6 and dropping Malik Heath, or just keeping 7. Julian Hicks also made a really nice catch. I believe it was a pass from Michael Pratt. Really nice back shoulder type of catch. So nice to see him get some action in the receiving game. Joe Wilson, 3 for 30, obviously with Tyler Davis and Tucker Kraft out. He saw heightened snaps. Malik Heath, 2 for 22. We were just talking about him. Bo Melton, 1 for 12, was targeted 4 times, so pretty much had 3 drops, which is unfortunate. Samori Torre, a catch for 8 yards, also was the punt returner all night. The other quarterbacks on the roster, Sean Clifford saw most snaps of the night and went 10 for 19. 111 yards, a 70.3 rating, about an average performance. Started kind of slow, but then he made some nice plays where he'd scramble out and fire the ball. Man, he gets a lot of zip on that ball. When he's rolling out and he just fires it downfield, it's like a laser right to wherever he needs to go. And he looked all right. Michael Pratt looked pretty good as well. 5 for 7, 46 yards, a small sample size, an 89.0 passer rating. Obviously, the night was highlighted by the main throw by Jordan Love and just made it look easy. Picking up right where they left off last season, just firing a missile downfield to Tay Wicks for a touchdown. It was a thing of beauty. Now we have to talk about this defense, and this is what excited me the most about this preseason game. As much as I love Tay Wicks, as much as I loved seeing that slot fade for a touchdown, man, this defense looked so different last night in a good way. I don't know if you guys felt this, like the little bit of chills just watching this defense fly around, right? First, it's a 4-3. It's a new front. You got Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, hand in the dirt. 4 guys up front getting after the quarterback. It looks a lot better. Guys are creating pressure from the inside. We're running more stunts. It just looks a lot better. Then on the back end, the talent that the Packers have in this safety room is absurd. And again, I'm not trying to overreact on one preseason game, but when you watch this game, there are a couple guys that stood out heavily on that defense. And it's their 2 rookie safeties, Javon Bullard and Evan Williams. They played Javon Bullard a ton in the nickel last night, which then had Keyshawn Nixon on the outside, which is, again, interesting. They've kind of been doing that, and he's just flying around. A play would happen, and he would be off screen, and then all of a sudden, Javon Bullard on screen, flying in, making a hit, or trying to break up a pass. And the same goes for Evan Williams. I feel like every play he was involved in, this guy was not afraid to hit. Like if it was a quick pass over the middle or near the sideline, you heard Evan Williams come up and make that hit through the microphone. You heard the pads smacking together. Evan Williams just flying in, not afraid to hit. This guy, man, he has that Micah Hyde aura or aesthetic. He doesn't really play like Micah Hyde. He more so plays like an Adrian Amos. But man, the 33 and a safety on the Packers defense, it just looks so good. And he was very impressive last night. He's been impressive all camp. And that brings me back to my Grant DeBoe's point. When people impress in training camp, that's one thing, but then to replicate it in a preseason game, it's impressive. This safety room is completely different. And as much as we talk about Javon Bullard and Evan Williams, Anthony Johnson Jr. also had a good night. He was flying around. He forced a fumble on a play. Man, this safety room is completely transformed from last season, and I couldn't be more happy about it. They just have so much versatility there, whether it's putting Xavier McKinney in the box, leaving Javon Bullard deep, or Javon Bullard in the nickel, and Evan Williams in the box, and Xavier McKinney deep. They have so many different pieces, and it's a joy to see. And Jeff Hafley's going to have a wonderful time scheming these guys doing different things, whether it's bringing pressure on the quarterback, moving them around, allowing them to simply play ball. It's not something we've seen from defensive backs under the Joe Barry scheme ever, pretty much ever, allowing defensive backs to play their game. It all circles back to when Jeff Hafley kept saying, read and react and run and hit. I mean, the Packers simply drafted a bunch of players this offseason that can run and hit. And we've yet to see Edgerrin Cooper and Tyron Hopper in a preseason game. So add those guys to the mix. It's going to be awesome. And I was very impressed with Isaiah McDuffie on the early drives. Obviously, he got the start, and I think he saw 2 or 3 drives or something of that sort. But he was very impressive sideline to sideline, kind of showcased more speed than I'm used to seeing from him, where they'd run an outside run and he'd be flying from, weak side backer, going to the strong side and making a play on the ball or making a hit on a runner. Evan Williams led the defense in tackles last night with 5 tackles and actually was the second highest graded PFF player on the Packers defense, right behind Robert Rochelle, who also had a good night. Let me know if you want a video going over the PFF grades. I know it's just preseason, but if you want me to do that, let me know down in the comments below, and of course I can do that. But man, Evan Williams, so impressive, didn't miss a tackle, and that's a thing also last night. The Packers, under PFF, did miss 10 tackles, but I didn't really notice it much, at least with the starting defense and second team defense, guys that are actually going to be playing on this defense this season. I really didn't notice much missed tackling. Like, guys were wrapping up. They weren't just throwing shoulders into guys, especially the safeties, guys. So impressed with them. And I know I keep saying it, but I'm so impressed with these safeties. On the defensive line, there was 2 guys that really stood out to me, at least with the starters. That's Lucas Van Ness and Devontae Wyatt. There was like 3 straight plays where Devontae Wyatt created pressure either on the running back or the quarterback, and he simply just got into the backfield. That's been happening a couple practices, and then it happened here in the preseason game. And guys, already it's just year 2 of Lucas Van Ness, but I think this scheme change is going to make him such a better player. He already looks so great at defensive end, hand in the dirt, and just playing like he did at Iowa. He looks like a completely different player from last year in a good way. I mean, he had multiple plays of great contain on run plays. He looks like a very solid run defending type of defensive end, but he also created pressure on the quarterback. He looked great last night. He had 4 total pressures and a sack and was the 6th highest graded defender on the defense. The main takeaway from last night on this defense is they just look faster. And I know we have a lot of the same players, but we also have a lot of new players, a lot of athletes added to this defense. And I'm trying to tamper my expectations a bit, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. They just looked way faster than they ever have that I remember this defense being. We also saw a couple plays from Kalen King where he came down and made a nice tackle on a run play, so nice to see him getting some snaps there. Again, Nixon on the outside with Bullard in the slot is interesting, but they're also without Jair and Valentine, so it's probably just because they're just going to get him snaps on the outside because they want to get work for Bullard in the slot. But yeah, last night was so exciting watching this defense play under Coach Jeff Hafley. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this preseason game. What was your main takeaways from it? Do you agree with some of my points, or are there some other points from this game that I didn't mention in this video? Let me know your key takeaways down in the comments below. I appreciate you guys coming by to the channel. I apologize for not being live during this game, doing a live watch party. I wasn't home yesterday. That's why I just finished watching the game for the first time today. I will be live next week, preseason week 2, Sunday night, 8 Eastern against the Denver Broncos. I will be live here on this channel doing a live watch party for that preseason game. But again, I appreciate you guys coming by. If you could, please leave a like down below. It supports the channel a ton. But I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.